Seeking the wise.
With Aaron and Alexander discussing the just philosophy.
Covering self-development, emotional processing, conscious relationships, and 5 levels of overall wellness.
Welcome to the Wise podcast. We are in the virtual studio today. Along with me is a heavily meditated Alexander.
Hello, everybody. Good to be with you. I was sharing with Aaron how I went into a second meditation after my morning practice this morning and lost track of time and almost ran late connecting on the podcast today. So I wish all of you to lose track of time through meditation over meditation.
Well said. And today we're going to be just experimenting with attraction. It's been a pretty hot topic for us. I know that we kind of reflected back, did our own individual episodes on attraction and shared our own views and experiences. But I think we probably are just going to have a conversation about it, how it relates to the attraction between individuals on our, like, a romantic level, attraction between us and the material world, and how we can possibly, utilize this attraction, become more aware of it, and utilize it for our self-growth. Maybe touch upon some things that we haven't touched upon in the past.
Yeah, and I want to invite everybody to be part of this conversation. This is more of a expanding kind of topic, and I've got some 6 principles that we're going to go over. But this idea of what attraction is and the cost of it, as we discuss a lot in the Wise podcast, is the cost of our wants and those types of things, and separating wants from needs. And many times attraction can take us toward our wants and sometimes away from our needs. And I also feel that many people confuse attraction and love. And so I'm looking forward to kind of getting into that. And but would you like to share the 6 principles, and we kind of take off from there?
I can. I do want to say that a lot of the topics that we talk about, especially attraction, when we're talking about the costs of things, our emotions, the cost of having emotional reactions, none of this are we saying that these things are bad, but just where we want to bring more consciousness in to these things so we can understand them more, so that they're not controlling us and we're not acting out of the subconscious where we would be acting where something else is controlling us, whether it be our past trauma or somebody emotionally manipulating us. So that's where we stand on all this stuff. And attraction is one of those things that it can feel good. It does feel good to be attracted to something, and it can be almost addicting. And especially when we're attracted to something that we want, we can, begin to fool ourselves into thinking that, oh, this is what I want, even though it doesn't match up to all of my checklists, but I'm addicted to it. Like I want it. So the attraction is just another it's like an energetic force that we will dissect. But in helping dissection is the 6 foundation principles of relating, in which we do have past episodes on. We have one that I think we titled the 4 foundation principles of relating, and then we added on the 5th in the episode after, that is forgiveness. And then Alexander has since added on 6th one. So I will try to name them in the order that I remember them, which is attraction happens. No, yeah. Attraction happens. Love is developed. Respect is earned.
Respect is given.
Okay. Respect is given. Trust is earned. Forgiveness is a necessity, and energy remembers. Do you want to expand upon any of those?
Yes. All of these are great contemplation topics. And I would like to even suggest to our listeners to pick one a day and rotate those just as a reference point of what you're experiencing in your daily life. And many people that have this view of love at first sight, this is what kind of got me going in the direction to creating these principles was that I really questioned, does love really happen at first sight? And there may be listeners that say that they believe that 100%, and I'm not challenging that. But I started really looking at love being developed over a long period of time. And then that took me to even thinking that, like, when a mother is carrying a baby for term of 9 months, see, they're creating a relationship even during that time. So it still takes that time to develop that love. But I have had experiences of things happening instantly. And confusing attraction and love, I think, is a very common event. And that's why we're bringing this up in the discussion, that many times people can feel like they're falling in love with somebody really, really fast. And I'd like them to consider that it could be attraction. And we're going to bring in the human design here as well, that for those of you that understand the human design, it can be a very useful tool in understanding how others are affecting us. And for those of you that's not that familiar with the human design, it basically shows our energetic makeup, and it shows a 9-chakra system, and chakras are just energetic pathways. And most people know of a 7-chakra system that go through the core of the body. This one has 9, and when certain chakras or energy centers are activated, they're colored on the chart. And when they're not activated, they're white. So if they're not activated, you're not really putting energy out into the world or affecting people where that chakra or energy center is concerned. When it is colored in, it means it's active, and it does mean that you are affecting others around you with this energy. So many times when people experience attraction, they may call it twin flames or soul partners, many different phrases. But a lot of times what's happening is, like, I have 5 centers activated and 4 non-activated. So if I get around someone that has all 4 of those centers that I don't have, that they have those activated, and see, they're filling me in. This human design shows it like plugging a light into a receptacle, and without plugging in, that light doesn't have light. So you plug in, and now it has the power to have this light. And we're energetic beings, and so we affect each other drastically, really. And empathic people can feel this and can learn to understand it. But that's very important, that I feel that this is what's happening a lot with people meeting new people and then feeling this instant connection. And what's actually happening is they're completing themselves and filling the voids that they have. And I know that you have some good information to share with this, Aaron.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the human design. And this is something that we discussed at the end of one episode, but I don't think it got into a free one. So I'm glad that, we're going to be able to bring it up today, because this is something that in the last year that I've been looking more into, and I just happened to see a Facebook post about it. And that's the difference between a split definition and what you are, which is a
Single definition. And there's multiple different types of split definitions.
Some people who are triple split, quadruple split, which just blows my mind that can happen. But I'm a split definition where I have, and I'll throw up the human design charts of us as we're talking, where I have a cluster of activated centers here and then a cluster here on my chart, but they're not connected. Mm-hmm. So, all throughout my past, whenever I've felt myself yearning to complete myself through a relationship, I always would judge myself. And because, there's that cliche, or it's somewhat of a truth, that you need to love yourself before trying to find somebody to complete you or whatever. So I would always judge myself as being emotionally immature. So I was aware of that type of feeling inside of me. And I did do that throughout my 20s, just go from relationship to relationship, trying to find somebody to complete me, essentially. And when I started doing the work and working on healing and becoming aware of all of my energetic tendencies, going back to my energetic design and understanding it more, the split definition never really came up until I had read, kind of like a little conversation that Ra, the guy who channeled the human design information, was talking about. And it rang true to me, where it was describing where if you have a split definition, you're constantly trying to find another person with those channels, with those centers to connect and complete your circuit, so that you feel whole. And I don't know if it necessarily means that you're filling all of them, but at least at the very least you're connecting your circuit, so it's one and it's not, shattered or scattered around. And so that rang true to me, because even as I was doing this work with Alexander and working on myself and becoming more aware of my energy, I still had this yearning inside of me. And I was trying not to judge it, but I still would think, okay, Aaron, you still got some work to do. And I still have work to do. So it's not like I'm letting myself off here. But the more I looked into this, and Alexander and I had a conversation about it, the more I understand that this is just a part of me. It's just a yearning. It's my energetic level trying to complete a circuit. And understanding that, I'm able to lose the judgment, and I'm able to bring in more consciousness and have more control. I don't know if control is the right word there, but more management around it, because it's not I'm not judging it. It's not something wrong. It's just is how I'm made. And I think the reason why I'm made, or other people are made to have split definitions, is to experience and grow through relationships. I mean, of course, it will still happen to single definitions, but maybe it's not a theme or a driving force in their life. So that's just been some of my experience with this. I really feel like this is something that many people should just, get a human design reading from Alexander, or, get your chart drawn up and just see if you are a split definition, and see if this is a recurring theme in your life. And so you can bring more consciousness in and understand yourself a little bit better, so that there isn't this judgment around parts of yourself that may just be how you're made.
Yeah, because again, like Aaron said earlier, there's nothing wrong with attraction. And see, attraction normally comes from voids. And that's why this human design is a great visual to be able to see where you actually have these voids. And when you learn to fill those voids in healthy, natural ways, then you're not as dependent on people playing those roles for you. Another thing that single definitions normally have an easier time with than split definitions is spending time alone and feeling a completeness in that. Sometimes split definition people can maybe spend a lot of time alone, but it can lead toward depression faster, because they are still feeling this type of incompleteness. And so see, it doesn't necessarily have to be a person. Like for example, I have the mental center non-activated. Aaron has it activated. So when we're together, he activates that in me. And sometimes what that is a person that can finish your thought or finish your sentence before you even get it out of your mouth. Many times is a non-activated mind picking up what's in the activated mind's person's field that they haven't accessed yet. So it's a beautiful exchange for creative partners to be able to bounce ideas off of each other. When those two are both filled in, then it creates kind of like a little bit of a clash. The energy isn't able to flow, as well. So again, here, attraction happens. And that means in a split second, when you feel a sense of appreciation or likeness or whatever that is towards a person, or when you see a car going down the road that you really would love to have. Or you go to someone's house and then you're attracted to the way they have it designed or the space they have or something like that. So one of the main things that I would like to get across in this particular podcast is to just be able to recognize it. Then here we're going to bring in our 3 R's. Respect it by stopping to judge it, that there's something wrong with it, and then redirect that energy. So going back to what I was talking about with Aaron and I in the Mind Center, see, I can utilize books and information to activate that in me. Like I could have this yearning of, oh, I really need to have a conversation with somebody to be mentally stimulated. And well, no, that could also be gotten through a book or going out in nature and looking at nature in a different mental state. And so these are the things that many people will feel that they need a person to fill this void. And sometimes that will be a person that carries other toxic issues. So they're filling you with that, but there's a big cost. And hopefully today's podcast is going to help some people understand that they can manage this without being worried about bringing in toxic people or situations.
Yeah, and if I had a history of just jumping into relationships and they eventually were unhealthy, or I was, wasn't getting the lesson, and I was just kept attracting the same people in, and suddenly, I came upon this work and I heard this podcast. You were talking about voids. One thing I could do is find a friend that would connect all of my energy centers to make me a single definition when we're around each other, and I can spend more time with them so that I'm not finding or feeling the urge to jump into another relationship like this. These are just ways to bring consciousness in to help assist us from getting away from our previous patterns, but also fulfilling the voids that we have. So we're not ignoring the voids. We're not, going cold turkey on the voids. We're still getting fed, but we're doing it more in a conscious way.
Yes. And also with this, to understand that, like the example I gave of I have 5 activated and 4 non-activated, and then I meet somebody with all 4. See, sometimes you're just going to meet somebody with 1 or with 2. And so the attraction will be in that specific area, but here's where we're talking about that they still might not fulfill like a split or multi-split definition person. So that these people many times feel more comfortable in groups of people. Again, see, there's no judgment with this. It's not a better than or anything like that. It's just learning to so-called be in the flow of life and to accept, who we are. And almost everyone has things that if they had a way, they would change that, whether it was their skin color or their hair color or being bald or their weight or whatever it is. Most people deal with those challenges of wishing that they could change something. But see, contentment and loving the self is in not catering to those attractions. Like if a bald person sees another person with a beautiful head of hair, it's hard not to be attracted to either that person or at least, the hair. But that's also losing intimacy with the self when we carry that vain type of non-approval for ourselves. So look at that as well as that, attraction can lead us back to what we actually need to give ourselves.
Yeah. Would you say that there are cases where it's not that, where we have attraction, but it's not something that we need? I mean, I guess if I'm attracted to like Manny Ramirez was always my favorite baseball player, and the way he would hit home runs and just like watch it before jogging. Some people probably wouldn't like that, but
Sure.
but I like that. So like I can go into dissection whenever I feel attraction. If I want to bring in consciousness, I can like dissect that. We can use that as an example. Like, what is it that I was attracted to? Is it the confidence? Is it the arrogance? Is it the knowing? Is it the raw skill? Like,
Right.
I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, but
Right.
it,
Right.
it was this level of just like showmanship, I think.
Okay.
So what does that say about me? Does that, and you can help me dissect this. Like,
Yeah.
what does that show me? I don't know. Does that mean that I want more of that, or that I see that in myself and well, it's not repulsive because then I wouldn't be attracted to
Right.
it, right?
Right. Yeah. Maybe, many times attraction can lead us towards something that we want to develop or be better at. So even if that is that sportsmanship, or it could be, yeah, the consistency, the amount of effort and practice that he would have had to put in to be that kind of hitter. So of course it's very important to get very specific, or as specific as you can. And we're doing this, of course, on the spur of the moment. So seeing that maybe there's still a part of you that wants to be seen in different ways and appreciated in different ways. And you even went through a period of time of doing your own videos and doing different things from the podcast. And see, I think that was kind of leading toward that. Maybe finding that thing in you that you're just very happy to show to people. And so I think that's great.
Yeah, and that's a great point because I think I had a drive to talk about this work. I mean, I do anyway, whether it's with you or not. And when I wasn't getting fed outside the podcast, I really yearned to talk about this on the podcast. So, even about on my own. But now I've realized just in this few minutes that I have a lot of friends that I've made here that I'm able to talk about the work a lot with. And
Okay.
so I don't need that outlet on my own as much to like maybe prove or show how much I know, or because I'm doing so much. I'm a verbal processor too, but I'm doing so much on the side that I'm getting fed in these conversations just by talking about it, because I'm realizing and making more connections as I'm saying things about what I know. Like, it's showing me what I know, what I don't know, where I have holes, and if there are any, in what I say as I'm saying it. So I'm doing like a lot of work, even though I'm talking about the work, I'm doing a lot of work while I'm doing it, verbally processing, sharing stuff, but it's also fulfilling possibly a void that I may have had where I felt more strongly to have my own episodes and to express myself in a certain way. And even like outside of you, because it was allowing me to again show myself how much I know and where I had uh areas of grayness.
Yeah, because I would even say that showmanship is connected to this urge of giving and wanting to, like, I mean, impress could be another word, but see, if you're many times, if you're looking to impress, you're hoping that somebody will notice something that you have that is special. And so, connecting it to that sportsmanship. And I think that was very good that you kind of dissected it down to that it inspired you before you go for a run. You had to maybe watch him hit some highlights of like home runs to see that style to get inspired. And so I think that was a good dissection, and to see that, yeah, now that you're talking about this more once again, on your own time with your own people in your own way, I think it probably fulfilled a lot of the stuff that, yeah, the videos that you were attempting there for a little while was attempting to feel. So great dissection and recognition.
Yeah, and it's also bringing in a whole other level of challenge for me, but more feedback that I can then bring back to these episodes with you. So it's like, Alexander and I are constantly trying to keep the energy flow, authentic and continuous. So that's why, we try these different episodes. We bring in creativity. We change it up to try to keep that authenticity going. So it's not just we're talking about the same old stuff. So is it that when we talk about the human design, and so let's say like I dated somebody in my 20s who was a reflector, so she had no energy centers
All
activated.
white.
They're all
Yeah.
open. And I only have, I mean, I'll put the chart up. I think I have five 4 non, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So
Yeah, that was right.
so I have 4. I don't know, whatever. Everybody's gonna be able to see it
Yeah.
except us. I can't remember my own chart, but anyway, I don't have a lot. I mean, I have like half the amount, but because of all the gates that she had, when we overlapped our charts, we completed the entire thing, which I feel like is unreal. Going from a reflector and somebody only has half, that all of a sudden they're activating all the energy centers. So before, I mean, I obviously didn't know this. I was going back and I went back to that relationship because there was always this like crazy pull toward each other. If even after we broke up, if we saw each other at a party, we were immediately re-attracted to each other. So that's why I went back and looked at that. And so, would you say that the more open centers that are filled between two people when they come together, they will experience like a greater amount of attraction, like exponentially as it goes up? Or is it just, there's so many more factors that we can't really say that?
Yeah, there are too many factors to be able to just give it that black and white, because also what's happening is a person's awareness. So see, a lot of stuff goes on in people's experiences that they're not aware of. And like I remember someone I was talking to one time about Mercury retrograde, and they just said, "Oh, I don't believe in that. I'm however years old, 55 years old, and it's never affected me." And see, that in my world, that's just not a truth. Is if they would have said, "I haven't realized that it's affected me," then I can agree with that. So part of this is energetic awareness, and that it could be happening, but again, if you're not fully experiencing it, to what level is it happening? What level is it affecting you? And this is the purpose of awareness, which leads towards consciousness. Being consciously aware of your own self and energy, moods, those types of things, and then paying attention when you get around other people and seeing who pulls you off center, who affects you, who lights you up. Like attraction is normally a lighting up, but see, we also want to bring in that attraction can bring in the need to protect, the need to be jealous. So see, there's a cost to this attraction. Normally, however higher the attraction level is, the more intense the jealousy, the micromanaging, just different things like that. So this is a lot that goes on between people that most of our culture just isn't aware of, and we're just kind of introducing from the philosophy's view and from a tool such as the human design of how to just use these in combination to become more clear in how you are being affected by your environment and how your environment's affecting you.
Yeah, we've talked extensively how attraction is misrepresented, misunderstood as love in our culture. And obviously, in the foundation principles, we say that love is developed. Now, it can seem that attraction is love to some people initially because we are pulled in and we want to be around them all the time and we want to do things for them all the time. But when you start to look at it and dissect it, bring in consciousness, look at the actual like energy and the physics around the attraction versus the love vibrations, it seems like that attraction is almost like the faux love. It's almost like a fake love. It's inauthentic. And it's not really built on anything. It's built on our energetic design, how we're responding to each other. And a lot of that is built on where we are in our growth work. Because as we heal, we're lessening these attractions. And as we lessen the attractions, we're lessening the control, the pulls. So if we're with a partner and we're experiencing like insane attraction, and that means we're probably going to be mirrors for each other because they're showing us where we have work to do. And the more attraction there is, there's probably more work to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be pretty highly charged. And the amount of just contentment around each other is probably going to be pretty low because that attraction. I mean, it just makes sense from an energetic level. But if we take the opportunity to work on ourselves through that, if both people kind of work on themselves over a couple years, the attraction, that pull, that almost toxic pull is probably going to lessen, and either they're going to find out that they don't have a lot in common, or that charge isn't there, and if they were addicted to that, they're going to probably just be like, hey, we're just friends, or let's go our separate ways, or have an argument and don't stay together. So as you do that, you almost need to replace that attraction with love. And so, Alexander, how would we do that? Or if we find ourselves in a traction relationship where, let's say, the listeners out there are thinking about their relationships, and maybe they're in one that's been going on for a year, and they're like taking inventory, and they're like, okay, wow, yeah, maybe this is mostly attraction. They don't need to go and break up with this person, but how could they start to maneuver and shift the energy from attraction to love? Because this is a conscious thing, and this is a choice to do. And this is something that I just never knew when I was younger. It was funny, just quickly before we get into that. And I openly tell people this because I find it funny that when I was younger, I didn't know that relationships were work. I just thought you were attracted to somebody, you got together, and you didn't fight. If you fought, you weren't supposed to be together. And I was just like, it's so funny because I was just so ignorant back then. And I think about it now, and obviously I have the exact opposite view of where I was. And that's why none of my relationships worked out, because my view was totally wrong. So love is developed. Love is a choice. How can we shift that attraction to love?
Well, first off, I want to start with one of my favorite sayings that I used as a mantra for a long time, is that if you're looking for something in return, you may not want to call it love. And if you think about attraction, see, when you're attracted to somebody, you want to know that they're attracted to you. So, see, the insecurities come out, the need to be complimented. And if that doesn't happen, then fear sets in to the person that's attracted. Then they start worrying that they're not going to be able to hold on to this. So, see, fear is involved in attraction. Again, the attraction is there because there's a void. And if you resolve the void, then you're able to manage the attraction a lot better. So, I want to go back to that saying, and I'm going to say it again, and I want it to really sink into people of, if you're looking for something in return, you may not want to call it love. So when you think about all that a, optimal parent will do for their child, I really think that most people that are properly raising their children don't have this plan in the back of their mind of, oh, well, they're going to have to do this for me at some point, so I'm going to do it this way. See, it's more of a authentic, I just want to do this for my child. I just want to help in this way. And sometimes it's money, sometimes it's times. It can be many different things. But, a lot of parents that give their children money out of love, see, they're not keeping a tab of how much it is, and they're not looking to get it back. But if there's any type of attraction or void there, it becomes like, let's make a deal. I will give you this if you will give me that. And see, that's not, I want people to question whether that's love or not. That's anytime there's a deal, then I want you to consider that you're attracted to something. You're wanting something. See, wanting is not involved in love. There's a contentment that's there. And there's just a wanting to give, an urge, not a wanting, but this pull to give and to be helpful, or to be appreciated and not even the appreciation. Again, it's more like just think about, I want everybody to stop and think about somebody that they love, and then think about something that you would like to give them or do for them, and then feel that feeling of how there's just no interest in what's returned. It's just, no, I truly want to just give this my time, my energy, whatever it is. And to start that as your question is like, how do we shift attraction to love? Love is developed over time, which I happen to feel communication, conscious communication, is a big part of love. And I've even been challenged with people saying, with the whole saying of that parents that have multiple kids, they don't love one kid more than the other. And see, I can accept that. But they are attracted to one child more than the other. And many times that attraction is connected to how easily they are able to communicate, which gives incentive towards the level of love that they will be able to develop with that child. So again, from the basic love standpoint, there's no difference in the amount of love, but there is this attraction to the communication level and the potential of being able to develop more intimacy. And I think that is an attraction point for many people. But see, we have to be very careful not to go into making deals, conscious and subconscious deals, because that's what a lot of people seem to base their love on, is I will do this for you. I will go to your family's get together, but you have to go to my family's get together because we love each other. And that's what people love each other do. That might be marriage. That might be relationship. That might be titled something else, but I don't call that love. Love would be, oh, if you don't want to go, then I don't want you to go. I want to love you to be exactly where you're at and doing what you're doing. And if people go, well, if I told my husband that, we'd never do anything together. Ding, ding, ding. That may be what, you want to look at, is because a lot of people are spending a lot of energy with this let's make a deal thing. And that does not lead towards intimacy or love in my experience. And so I think that's some of the first steps, is just realizing that, yes, if this attraction is here, it's for a reason, and we can grow from it. We can even be attracted to somebody and stay with them, but still fulfill that in ourselves to where we're not as codependent on them. And these are the couples that maybe one gets together and they love to travel and one doesn't. And see, I'm a homebody. I enjoy developing from home. That's in my design with anybody that has the root chakra in the human design. But of course, I've dated and been in relationships with lots of women that did not have that. So the way we work it out in a loving way is, hey, you'll probably take 4 trips this year. I'll take one of those trips with you, and it'll be beautiful if you can find a friend to entertain with on those other 3 trips. And to me, consciously, both parties can get what they want. And then when they come back together, they're both fulfilled and so happy to see each other. And to me, that's building toward intimacy and love.
Yes. And the Let's Make a Deal, we do have an episode titled Why Compromise and Sacrifice May Not Have a Place in Conscious Relationships. That was always a good one I like to go back to. I wanted to go back to that saying, you may not want to call it love if you're looking for something in return. That brings me back to, well, freedom, first of all, comes up for me, because if you want to foster love, you give that person the freedom to be themselves, to make their own decisions. Otherwise, you're controlling and manipulating them, or trying to, maybe subconsciously you are. It may not be consciously that you're trying to control them. Because I feel like some people don't want their partner to grow because they may grow and no longer give them what they're attached to getting in that relationship. But freedom is, for me, love. And this also, funny enough, goes back to the human design. And I want to bring something up here. When we go back to that saying, I can see people picturing or asking themselves, well, yeah, of course I want something in return. Like, I'm here, we're married, I want a partner, I want somebody who's going to foot their part of the load of life, do the dishes, blah, blah, blah. So to say or suggest that, I shouldn't be looking for something in return, of course, I need to because we made a commitment. But I also want to go back to the heart center in the human design, which is funny because it's the heart center, but it's around boundaries. So we can love somebody freely with freedom, but in our relationships, we can have boundaries where of what we're going to put up with and what we're not. So we can love somebody. Now, if they love us back in the same way, then they're going to want to make our lives easier. They're going to want to help us around the house. They're going to want to help support me or us to be the best version of ourselves so that we, in return, feed them. But if you love somebody and they're not loving you the way that you feel like you're being supported in life, then you would have a boundary around that. And then you can love them by not being their partner and allowing them to, do their growth outside of your relationship while you maybe do your own work or find somebody else that can be on that level. So Alexander, let's go into that heart center, and how does this play a role in our relationships?
Yeah, so it's all a great question and great connections with that heart center. See, when we think about, like you said, it's also called the will center, and it's connected to boundaries. But see, boundaries, when we set a boundary, we are respecting our freedom. We're saying, this is what I need to feel free, for you not to cross this line. And yes, if that person truly loves and cares about you, if they don't want to support that, then they have an agenda. Because again, when I'm talking about love, I haven't mentioned relationships. I'm only talking about love. Once you bring relationships in, love is just one aspect. And as we go through, it also has the trust and the respect and the energy remembering, bringing your baggage in from old relationships. And so all those six subjects that we gave at the beginning, all those is what builds a relationship. So we want to differentiate between talking about love and talking about relationships, because relationships is more encompassing. But I still say that if you're looking to develop love with someone, you want to make as few deals as possible. You want to invite, like, hey, I want to go to the lake this afternoon. Would you like to come with me? And see, if that partner says no, then you have the wherewithal to go to the lake by yourself or with another friend and have a good time. And then you don't come back and you're bitter because your partner didn't go with you. So that's the kind of deals, and this is part of respect. We should give each other respect right away. But if we get disrespected, then that can hinder some of those other subjects. Like, well, then that can affect how energy remembers, because now I'm going to remember that you disrespected me, and it's going to be hard for me to get over that. And when somebody's disrespected, they pull intimacy away most of the time, which is going to affect the general subject that we started with love, and that it's developed. And through respect, it grows drastically. Through trust, it grows drastically. But as soon as one of those is hindered in some way, then it can bring that down. So I really see that people's relationships are kind of always oscillating. But see, the love that one feels for that person may or may not oscillate. Because again, I do come back to that. If you are looking for something in return, you may not want to call it love, because I do happen to feel that love is given. And love is given with that freedom that you're talking about, the unconditional love. Now, romantic love, once again, emotional love, it comes with a lot of conditions. But see, that's where we bring in the trust and the freedom and the judgments, the deals, and that's getting more into relationships. So I hope that helps all of our listeners to understand the differentiation and the depth of the things that we're touching on in today's episode.
I feel like there's so much more, and we're getting towards the end, but I wanted to bring in another level of attraction and something that you and I were talking about before starting recording, which is the metaphor of a car. And I was talking about how when I used to be nervous about my car leaving it places, it getting damaged by people or people breaking into it, stuff like that. When I used to worry about that all the time, these things would always happen. Like I would drive my car into Boston, I would park it, it would get in car accidents without me even driving it.
Mhm.
The mirrors would get smashed off. But I could trace that back to a time when I was always like so nervous about my car.
Yes.
So we can use that metaphor and maybe expand upon it in relationships if you want. But yeah, let's go into that level of attraction where we're actually attracting learning experiences from the universe because of our, I mean, I guess it would be the mental state, but is probably trickling down to other levels.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to attachment. And as soon as you're attached to something and you feel like you need to protect it, you start pulling energies toward that to almost create that situation. It's similar to someone that's in a relationship with somebody that's super jealous. Many times, the jealous person will push their partner into cheating because they accuse them of it constantly. So, this is why it's very important to, nurture our mind and how we think about things. This is part of the beauty of the 5 levels practice on a daily basis, is that you work to ease the mind, to learn to cut the thoughts off from the mind, so that when the whole point of that is that when your mind starts going in a non-beneficial direction, you're able to say, whoa, 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 no, you're going to have to calm down. And see, the person that meditates consistently, they're normally better at stopping these rabid thoughts, so to say. And people that stay very multitasking and they don't practice giving their mind a rest, it's very challenging once they get on a thought, a hamster wheel, that it just keeps going over and over and over, and it depletes so much energy. So, again, there's nothing wrong with attraction, but it needs to be managed like all the other emotions, whether that's anger or sadness or whatever. We are pro emotions here because we're emotional beings. But just like children, it helps for them to be managed, especially in public, not controlled, not fixed, none of that, but to be managed. And by management, I mean that if you have a young child that you're taking them to some type of situation where they need to be quiet and they need to be still, that's a type of controlling. And you better not, many parents use fear, that you better not act up in this situation. To where, see, it would be a whole lot more useful if they could take that kid to a park before going to that, let them wear themselves out, get a lot of energy burnt off, and then be able to more likely be still and more complacent because they've burned that energy off. And a lot of parents don't think about this, but when you look at the world as just energetic particles, then everything begins at that energetic level. And so if you can, whether that's so-called physical energy or subtle energy, we discuss both here. And see, in that scenario, I was suggesting the child to burn off like physical energy, because you're going to be asking them to be quiet and to be still. And if they're full of physical energy, then it's very challenging. And unfortunately, a lot of our kids get labeled with labels and get on medications when our culture doesn't support kids to be as active as they used to when I was going to school. And in a lot of schools, PE has been taken out of the curriculum. And so we're just asking our children to not be kids. And so, again, a loving parent wants to help their child to burn off that energy before putting them in a situation to where they're going to be judged. And so that, I think, is a great example of whether you use a car, and as soon as attraction is involved, see, there's a protection, there's a fear of loss, all of that, but not in love. Even with that scenario with the kid, the parent doesn't have to worry about how the kid's going to act if they've gone through that process of letting the kid burn the energy off. If they don't have time for that, because some people say, oh, emergencies happen, you don't always have time for that. Well, then you might want to make arrangements for the child rather than just taking them to where you already know they're probably not going to succeed. And so, unfortunately, many parents set their children up to fail. And that's just an example. And that is around not love. Well, we don't have to call it attraction. It's probably a fear of judgment, fear of what other people are going to think. And see, that's not the child's issue. That is the parent's issue. So I think this has been a wonderful general conversation that went in many different directions. So I'm so glad that we picked this topic. And what did you have to share to kind of wrap things up?
Yeah, I wanted to just go over the energy of what we were just talking about with when we attract these lessons in, because in that moment, like with me in the car, I was fearful of what could happen to my car.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in resistance to it happening. I'm not in acceptance that it could happen, or just like, hey, because like I'm not in fear of a comet landing on me,
Right.
every day.
Yeah.
But so like we as individuals aren't in fear of everything, most people, because we can't be in fear of everything. So our minds pick and choose on how they're, probably on how they're programmed, parents, environmental, but we pick and choose what we're afraid of for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And mine was my car getting damaged. And so I had a resistance to it. So the universe was like, hold my beer.
Yeah.
And I attracted that lesson in, because by being in resistance, it shows that I haven't learned that lesson. Mm-hmm. And it shows that there is a lesson to be learned, that I'm asking to learn a lesson here because I'm in resistance. So the universe is going to bring something in to give me the opportunity to lessen that resistance. So this is, if we can wrap our minds around the physics, the energetic part of these sort of, mental or energetic emotional levels or barriers that we place on things, then we can possibly prevent or need certain or the universe to present opportunities for us to learn certain lessons. So we can theoretically start learning things before actually needing to learn, and then in a sense possibly escape the cost of needing to learn that lesson.
Yes, and see, love doesn't carry the vibration of fear. So again, some people are going to want to resist that because they'll say, oh, I love my child, but yeah, I'm afraid that they're going to get hurt playing football or hurt riding a motorcycle. Well, then you're not in love. You're allowing, yes, you love your child, but right now you're choosing to separate from that love and go into a type of protection. And love doesn't need protecting. Now your ego may need protecting, your judgments may need protecting. There are many things in the human experience that we feel this need to protect, but if you're in love, you're in trust, and you're in faith, and you're in non-judgment. These are the principles of our spiritual level, that there's just 4 main things to practice, which is non-judgment, faith, trust, and gratitude. And so if you're doing all of those things, you're going to be in the vibration of love. And as soon as you experience anything so-called negative, then you've left love. And again, you've gone into whatever it is, protection or ego or blah, blah, blah. So I think that again is a good scenario for one of the first questions you asked about how do we shift from attraction to love. And that's one of the first steps is, am I carrying fear? Then I'm not in love here. And that can go a long way for people, like you said, because if you create the fear, then life's going to go, oh, well, you need help to learn this lesson. So we're going to bring you things to be fearful of. For example, you just came for a visit a week or so ago, and it had been a while. And since you were last here, I'd put up some cameras and some camera signs and that kind of thing. And you inquired, had anything happened? And see, I didn't put those things up out of fear. I put them up out of prevention because I have a lot of events that I have going on here. I have people come that I may never talk to or not. So see, it's not out of a fear. It's just that that's where our culture is, and that if somebody has a ill intention and they see that there's an obstacle and they still have that ill intention and they see somewhere that there's not that obstacle, they're more likely to go to where that obstacle isn't. So see, this is just working with the present time and where our level of consciousness is, but it's not doing that out of fear, and it's not waiting for something to actually happen to need to do that. So again, it's done in a loving manner, but not based out of that fear. And so this is where being proactive can, as you worked to describe earlier, it can keep us from having to pay such a cost to get the lesson. So this is why we listen on the subtle energy level, because things start with a whisper. We're all told with plenty of time the things that we need to change. And then that whisper turns into an audible sound. I'm talking level-wise. Then it turns into a yelling. Then it turns into a shouting. Then it turns into, I'm going to get you attention. And that's normally when some type of accident or situation has to be created. So hopefully this is empowering people that instead of using your energy to worry about things, focus on solutions, preventative solutions. And that's what self-development is it's preventative solutions as you move forward in your life without having to create the situations to learn the lesson in a harsher way.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought it back to the spiritual level. And I'm sure people would agree if we said that, God or the universal love, that isn't based on fear or attachment, like God's not attached to us or fearful of us or has fear or worry on us. Like everybody says that love is the purest love that you can have. And so we can always go back to that as an inspiration. But I'm glad that you did bring it back to the spiritual, because it is all in those same principles in relation to that divine love. So I enjoyed it. As always, it seems like we can just keep going deeper and deeper into a lot of these topics that we bring up. But I appreciate everybody listening. Appreciate you, Alexander.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Much love to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this free version of the Wise Wise podcast. To hear the complete conversation and go deeper into the application of the tools and techniques of the Just Philosophy, head on over to wisewisepodcast.com and become a premium member. You'll get to hear all of our complete conversations, including the complete episodes of our Inward Journey story series and our entire back catalog, and continue your self-development journey with us. We honor your dedication to self-growth, overall wellness, and continuing to ask the wise whys.
And remember, gradual changes over long periods of time equals lasting results.
Continue on your self-growth journey by visiting thejustphilosophy.com, where you are able to connect personally by booking a private consultation with Alexander in person, by phone, or Zoom. Uncover your authentic self more easily with a human design or destiny card consultation. Here you will gain information about your energetic makeup, personality, and your higher self, as well as navigating your way through your relationships. There are also multiple types of reports available for purchase that help you gain insight into your career, relationships, and opportunities for self-growth. The site also allows you to view a calendar of Alexander's live performances and class schedule, peruse other products such as shirts, CDs, and finally, the revolutionary VibroTune vibrational sound therapy tables. These contoured therapy tables allow you to bathe in a vibrational sonic bath of frequencies bringing you into alignment on all levels. You will be feeling and hearing calming music synced through vibration and frequency. So again, you can grab all this goodness at thejustphilosophy.com, thejustphilosophy.com. The Just Philosophy, as discussed in this podcast, has been developed by Alexander over the last 25 years in his personal studies, private practice, and professional environment. The information discussed is intended for educational purposes only and is not meant as a replacement for conventional medicine. Just remember, knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. Seek the wise. We want to thank you for working on you. Keep shining your light and refining your vibe.